So we bought this steep and rocky place that was overgrown with cedars and brush and all kinds of things. And actually, I didn't realize how rocky it was until we started clearing the cedars. Yeah, it was named that before we moved here. Best I can tell, Shamoka is an Iroquois term that means large or plentiful horns or antlers. And there is a stream that runs through the place, and so that is Shamoka Run. Okay. There was an elderly lady in the neighborhood who said one time to me that, the rocks weren't as big when I was young. Oh, and I thought, oh, isn't that sweet? It's a little bit of age-related senility. But then I realized, she was right. That yes, these rocks do grow bigger when you start to lose soil. And actually, we have lost a good bit of topsoil in the Shenandoah Valley because of our farming practices over the years. I mean, I know that every acre of this place at one point was cultivated. 100 years ago, Augusta County supported something like 96 mills, flour mills. When we first moved here, I was determined that we were going to have a forage operation based primarily on alfalfa. The queen of forages. Alfalfa has a lot going for it. It's a great conservation plant. It's a legume, so it fixes nitrogen, it's deep-rooted, and so on. But it's a crop that takes a lot of management. I found myself making hay all summer and feeding it all winter. And over time, for me, that system became less and less satisfying. We had been doing rotational grazing. Actually, I didn't know it had a name, but I've been doing that since the early 70s. And I realized that in a healthy pasture sward, you're producing close to 2,000 earthworms per acre. 2,000 pounds of earthworms per acre. And to me, boy, that was an epiphany. I thought, well, holy cow. I thought 400 pounds of lamb was a big deal. But then, when I think about the earthworms, and that's only one indicator. My son is a real wildlife enthusiast. We started working together to try to establish some native grasses and some native wildflowers and see how we can integrate that into our forage operation. I think people need to know we farmers are doing a lot, I think, to provide for a better quality of life for all of us. There are so many of us that are focusing on water quality and building up our soils and providing good wildlife habitat. I don't think the consumer is aware of how much we're doing with that. These native wildflowers and grasses and all particularly support an abundance of pollinators, which then support an abundance of other wildlife. 40 years ago, my aesthetic sense I expressed with beautiful lush fields of alfalfa that we were creating. And over time, I guess my aesthetic sense has changed a little bit. Now that we are focusing more on stockpiling and native grasses and some wildflowers and all, to the untrained eye, it may look unkempt. But really, it is a complex system that is working. I've learned that a lot of these, what we used to call weeds, are in fact have a real role in the environment. For instance, I don't dislike pokeweed as much as I used to. That I've learned that that's good feed. That's good winter feed for a lot of wildlife, and it doesn't really impact forage production very much at all. I think I've evolved a new aesthetic sense. I just derive some pleasure seeing this new, old, complex, seemingly chaotic sward of grasses and wildflowers. And it's a real pleasure to see now how a lot of these plants now are volunteering around the farm. When I had that epiphany that, gee whiz, producing what we see above ground is only a small part of really what we're producing, that we are contributing so much more, that there's so much more going on underneath our feet that we can't see. That is key to the productivity of the farm, just really altogether. Regenerative grazing, yeah, that sounds good, and I think we're doing that. I pay a lot of attention to our forages. As a matter of fact, most people give two reasons for raising sheep, and that is for their lamb and for their wool. And I give two reasons as well, and that is that they convert grass into money, and they improve the productivity of the farm. Of our soils are getting better each year. Some of it is because of the way sheep graze, some of it is because of the way we have them graze. Regeneration is a good way to describe what we do and have been doing, for a long time. Well, in terms of grasses, I think big blue stem as a native grass is a big blue stem and Indian grass are the forages that I think we're focusing more on now. We've also established some switchgrass, but that doesn't seem to be as palatable for livestock as some others. And I've also got some interest in eastern gamma grass. I am quite distressed, of course, like so many other farmers are, about our drought conditions currently, but I am just really pleased as to how resilient a lot of our forages are, that we have we focus a lot of attention on creating a healthy sward of forage, and that when we encourage those deeper rooted grasses and other plants, boy, you can sure see it. Mm-hmm. You can sure see that areas that we haven't grazed, many of them are still green, so we still have some forages stockpiled. The drought's going to be hard on us because we're going to have to be feeding some hay and so on. I think this farm has considerably more resiliency now than it did 40 years ago, or maybe even 20 years ago. The key to making a livestock forage operation work is that you have to match the forages to the nutritional needs of the livestock. And in that livestock cycle, you've got open ewes, you've got ewes that are bred, they're in gestation, late gestation, lactation, they're raising their lambs, and then those lambs have certain requirements, and so you've got several balls in the air at the same time that you're kind of juggling. And we have found that when we can have a high-value crop like brassicas. Brassicas people would recognize as kale, kohlrabi, broccoli. Those are all brassicas, and they are a high-quality leafy crop. Of course, the turnips also produce a bulb that the livestock do very well on, sheep in particular, and they do very well in lactation and growing lambs. So that has become our winter feed. In the summertime, those turnip fields we'll put into millet, and there are times when we've added millet and some native legumes, partridge pea, Illinois bundle flower, and sunflowers. And I think just mostly because sunflowers are just so pretty. And the sheep eat them. It makes just a wonderful mixture for grazing in the summer. The key to keeping soil productivity is to keeping the soil covered all year long. So we like it, both the winter cover, the warm season cover, come up very quickly, and they add not only so much nutrition for the livestock, but they add so much soil nutrients as well. I'm very proud of what we did when we created the Virginia Lamb Co-op. We were selling the first branded lamb product in the country. We were targeting upscale grocery stores and restaurants to produce really a high quality product. There were 49 producers that joined together to create this authentic co-op. Several lessons learned. One is timing is everything. I remember I was in DC and I was just getting on a roll, giving my spiel to the grocery store manager about what a terrific product he had, and he interrupted me and he said, "Why should I sell your product? Nobody's asking for it." And that's quite a conundrum. Oh my goodness, how do you create a brand? But in those days, nobody showed very much interest in locally grown product. Nowadays, the grocers would mob you looking for locally grown product. So one of the lessons was that timing was everything, and also lack of funding. For my own case, many of the lambs that we produce go to medical research, although we still sell, a portion of our lambs as meat. And of course, we also sell replacement ewes. So we have kind of a diversified sales opportunity. The wool market has been pretty disappointing. Actually, it's been disappointing ever since polyester was developed. We can't produce a synthetic fiber that has the characteristics of wool, and of course there are plenty of producers in Virginia that pay very close attention and do some very fine marketing with their wool clip, and are able to get remarkably good prices by selling direct to the consumer and so on. Their wool and wool product. I can't keep this up. And my son is showing more and more interest in the farm. Of course, we have, different approaches to the farm, and we don't knock heads about that as much anymore. He has his way of doing things, and he's been a big encouragement in terms of converting to some of these native grasses and so on because it does support wildlife. I said that I had grown up right there on the fall line, and the soils were so poor, and so were the people. I grew up in an area where most of my neighbors close neighbors were black, shotgun shacks. I think that was a feature of the poor quality of the soil resources. I think contribute to the difficulty of living in that area. When we decided that we had to move from there, these are Frederick Christian soils, which are, for this area, they are considered a productive soil. And I knew that even though this place was steep and rocky, I knew that we could establish an alfalfa sward on it. And I think that's one of the lessons that I learned. It was good for me, maybe early on, to eke out a living on some of the most difficult soils to farm.